Hogwarts Legacy very kindly invited me down to an early preview of their game at their Warner Brothers film studios here in London, where I was able to get a couple hours hands-on playing the game, as well as meet the awesome development team who told me a lot of cool info about it. So I'm going to take you through all the new stuff I think you'd really like to know, which is story spoiler-free, by the way. And to be crystal clear, this video isn't sponsored, and I haven't been paid a single galleon by the studio. I was just very fortunate enough to be asked to pop down and play the game.
I wouldn't care to be sponsored either.
Share my observations with you, good and bad. So let's first start with swimming, because is that in the game? Well,
you know, I don't really see the lake being a huge part of this game.
Straight up answer is yes, it is. You can swim across all the bodies of water dotted around.
Don't look at me like that.
Islands. In fact, check out this footage I captured here, where you're able to dismount
I bet you're
from
gonna be
your
able to go
broom
underwater.
or flying mount into water directly, or alternatively, you can mount in the water and then fly off, which I wouldn't have known thanks to a heads up from Andrew, who was sitting next to me during my playthrough. But more on movement and flying next, because there's a catch to this swimming mechanic. It is only surface level swimming, meaning there's no diving here.
You're wrong.
Nor is there any
It would be cool to see mermaids, though.
No, I think there's a lot of stuff underneath the lake that, you know, could have been cool to explore. But if you're going to have the Forbidden Forest and all these different parts of Hogwarts, it makes sense. You know, this is a lot to include the lake as well.
Version to look under the surface.
It's supposed to be very deep, you know.
Of the locks or lakes in this game. So you can swim in the game, but you won't be popping back some gillyweed for some underwater Black Lake exploration, which is a little bit disappointing, I've got to be honest with you. But this map, which I can't show you, is absolutely massive. So I do understand.
Dang, they can't show us the map. That sucks.
Game. But let's move on and talk about movement, because it's something that I personally really felt happy with, because as you can also see from this footage I captured, I was charging around.
Imagine being the kid Naruto sprinting through the castle. It's like, all right, here comes this dweeb.
Around the castle, using the sprint button and then pulling the character in different directions quickly on the controller joysticks, as well as jumping and dodge rolling to test its responsiveness. And I was really pleased with it, to be honest with you. And incidentally, when you're in combat, it really does feel like you're fencing from a distance, as game director Alan 2 stated before Christmas. So I was initially concerned before playing that I would feel like I'm almost stationary or standing still and just turning my targeting joystick left and right while rotating through spells. And I'm also pleased to say that I didn't get that feeling at all. And I'll speak about combat in detail in just a moment, because I did also like the quick.
Because I was just thinking, like, you ever played like the older Harry Potter games?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when you play it, it's like almost like shooting through a gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just you standing there pointing and then shooting a spell. It's not, you know, I like that, you know, kind of parry system that they're going with, the fluid movement. That makes everything a lot more interesting.
I agree.
Response of activating my mount, in this case a broom, by holding down the L1 button and then pressing circle. Now, of course, you can only activate this outside of combat, and you can't fly high up into the air and then dismount, which
that is really cool.
I definitely tried to do. In fact, the only way you can dismount from being in the air is flying down to the ground and passing through this invisible flight deck, where if you then press circle, you'll automatically dismount. But if you're not low enough to the ground, you'll get a message prompt on your screen telling you it's unavailable, which essentially means you need to fly lower to get off your broom or your flying mount. Now, as much fun as flying
it would be really cool to be able to fly and then just jump off and fall and then hit the broom back and catch yourself. That would be dope as hell.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I'll accept it. I'm not hating on the game.
I get why they didn't, but you know.
Yeah, I would do that all the time. Like getting down would be so quick.
Finding the flight controls a little bit hard to get the hang of initially, as you can see here, which is a polite criticism, and maybe because the flight controls were inverted on the controller.
Why would they be? Who plays inverted anything nowadays?
I usually play inverted when it's anything doing with flying.
Really?
Yeah, I like it inverted.
I wasn't allowed to go raiding in the settings menu, so I do hope that's an available feature to switch to in game. But let's talk about spells, because I'm not permitted to walk you through all the spell tooltips and what each spell does, as the studio wants everyone to experience that themselves, which is totally understandable. But I am going to show you the layout of the spells available to give you a better understanding on how this mechanic works in game.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say, you didn't tell us the spells, but you gave us a good look at them, you know?
Yeah, because like I'm assuming... like the skull.
Everything at the bottom. Everything at the bottom. You got to think. So there's the torture.
What's the torture curse?
Crucio, and then there's the Imperious curse, which I'm assuming is the right one, because that's what used to control people.
And then you got fire, probably view, repair. Right.
Yeah,
here.
Reparo. That looks like Lumos. Up top right, some transfiguration. Wingardium Leviosa, some type of ice spell, maybe. There's gonna be a lock spell, I'm sure.
Explosions.
Yeah. Gas. Okay. Interesting. That looks
Still a
like,
lot.
yeah, still a lot. Still a lot.
What you're seeing here is the binding menu for your spells. So when you want to place one of these spells into your spell diamonds in the bottom right hand corner of your screen for easy access, you then go on to hold the R2 button and then press the right D-pad button to generate this panel. Now, it wasn't confirmed to me by the devs if these are all the spells in the game, but if I was to hazard a guess, I do think they are. As Alan 2 did say, there's over 20 slottable spells in the game, and with 23 being visible on your screen right now, that kind of adds up to me, especially when some of them are locked, which means we haven't yet learned them in game. Now, as for the essential spell section in the bottom left hand corner of your screen here, these are the environmental utility spells that are automatically locked to your left D-pad button, meaning you can walk up to stuff in game and press that button if you know the correct essential spell, and it will automatically cast for you. Such as using the Revelio spell to find a secret in the castle or find a hidden chest in the bushes.
And I was wondering how the treasure exploration in this would be.
But let's go through some combat here, because I'll be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I tried to be as objective as possible when playing the game.
That's good.
Really give it an unbiased review. But I think when you do play the game, you kind of want it to be fun and challenging. And I really did find that to be the case for me. And if you look at this footage here, I am just spamming some basic shots, which is tapping the R2 button, and kind of think of that as your standard damage attack whilst your spells are on cooldown. But there isn't an automatic lock against enemies. And what I mean by that is in some RPG games, all you need to do is click the R3 button to lock onto an enemy, and then essentially flick through all the enemies in the vicinity by pressing the D-pad button or whatever other button depending upon what game you're playing. But what that means is that you can just attack one enemy after another with your character auto turning to them, and to be honest, that does become quite boring. And I didn't find the combat here to have such a massive emphasis on that particular combat rotation. And don't get me wrong, you can lock on and target enemies, but you can also free cast your spells into a wall like I'm doing here, and use an ancient magic throw using your R1 button, which then is thrown into nothing, missing your enemy entirely if you're not actually looking at them or targeting them properly. So that's why I found
that's pretty intriguing. So it's not just a straight lock-on mechanism. I think that's pretty intriguing. You know,
I like that. I never use the lock-on in any game.
I mean, like Grand Theft Auto 5 is like the one game I can think of that I would
challenging right out of the gate, because I didn't feel like I was having my hand held in combat straight away, which was really refreshing for me, to be honest with you. And I was playing this on easy mode, and even though I didn't die, my brain was firing on all pistons to try and get to grips with combat.
I was just thinking this seemed pretty easy, and I have thought that about all the combat gameplay I've seen, where it's like, okay, you're putting a few spells into them, but nothing has looked hard yet. So
good way.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at the attack. I keep looking at that wolf that's shown a few times. It's like gotten close but never attacked him. Yeah, but that makes sense though if he's on you. Which if you're at a thing like this, it makes sense to play it on easy just so you can actually get to see all the game.
I agree.
Is the fact that this red circle above your head, which you can see here, is an incoming warning about a unblockable spell, meaning an enemy is about to smash you in the face with it and you can't actually deflect it. So the only way to stop that happening or to avoid it is to dodge by pressing the circle button. But then if you're locked onto an enemy and you get this warning happening and you then dodge, that disengages your lock on the target that you were focusing on. And then if you combine that with the other Spidey sense animation above your head, which means that you can parry an attack and then throw in melee goblins with axes and wolves running around trying to bite your arm, it does become a bit of a whirlwind experience.
Okay.
It's certainly challenging.
I like that.
And I do say that in a good way. It's particularly so when you need to keep track of all of your spell cooldowns and your 4 spell diamonds. You've also got to look out for enemy shields that auto regenerate, your own health pool because that drops rapidly if you get hit around a bit, and the challenges that you can then complete in combat on your screen which pop up for extra XP. So there's a lot to be aware of here, and I only played this one combat mission, which I'll
that dude looks like Harry Potter. He tried his best.
But as someone who plays a lot of single player RPG games like this, I keep saying it, but I did feel challenged and I enjoyed the dueling experience of it. And that's me trying to be as objective as possible. Now, if you are enjoying the video so far, please do leave a very swift like down below. helps me out on YouTube a lot, so thank you very much. I'm also running
did
a
that
Hogwarts
for him,
Legacy game
everybody.
giveaway. You just need to be a subscriber of the channel to enter, and the link is in the pinned comment, so best of luck to you. Now, I'll tell you another thing I liked, and that was the option to use the disillusionment charm to hide yourself from enemies and play through the game in this
I
stealth
kind of
capacity.
pause that right there. I was kind of really hoping that you would get to use the cloak of invisibility.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
I didn't think you would, but it would have been really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, because in my head is like, if there's a charm for this whole time, why the fuck is Harry Potter carrying around a cloak?
I mean,
it's way more convenient.
well, you got to think and a part of the, his cloak, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, is a Deathly Hollow.
It is, yeah.
He's got Death's cloak or whatever, it hides him from death. So I think, you can't use Accio on it. You can't do a lot of spells on it. So it makes it a little bit more magical of a item than I guess a charm would be.
Sure. But I would just rather not walk around with a hot ass cloak. That thing's moist in there all the time. It's fucking
If you
humid
haven't
as
played
shit.
any sort of stealth games before, this may not be familiar to you in terms of an in-game mechanic. So I'm just going to go.
I think that's kind of cool, though. I truly think this is cool. Having a stealth mechanic to this, I think that's amazing.
I love utilizing stealth in games. It's one of my favorite things. So
Footage here, because you can see a diamond panel above this enemy wizard's head, and you'll also notice that it starts to fill up, meaning that this guy is perhaps seeing through our disillusionment charm and will spot me if I do continue to approach the way I'm doing. So if I just unpause that here and then reset by heading backwards towards the door, you'll notice that his attention meter has also reset. So if I go ahead and approach him again from a little bit of a better angle, so he can't see me, in this case around about 90 degrees to his right, you'll see that the Petrificus Totalis takedown spell pops up, which knocks him unconscious. Now, our character also whispers...
I just gotta tell you this. I would rather someone use Avada Kedavra on me or something else than the Petrify thing. Because you can still feel everything. You can hear, you can think.
Oh, dude,
You're
paralyzed.
just locked up like a board.
Yep.
That sounds fucking miserable. That sounds like torture, dude.
It does sound creepy.
Yeah.
This spelling game, by the way, which
Look at him.
like, so listen to this.
Just gone. Imagine hitting the ground.
Which is a small detail, but
broken
I
shoulder
like
blade.
it nevertheless. Now, I know some of you love hardcore stealth games, as I've...
He died.
He just died. He disintegrated. Fuck. This dude's a cold, hard, goddamn killer, dude.
Covered Assassin's Creed
Serial
on the channel for
murderer.
the last couple of years, but I also want to manage your expectations here as well, because this is not a stealth game, and I clarified with Andrew and the devs that the only spell that you can use in a stealth capacity is that takedown spell, Petrificus Totalis, and you cannot fire off an Avada
Fair.
curse while stealth.
That's
So
hilarious.
when you do decide to use another spell which isn't Petrificus Totalis, when stealth, it will subsequently break your disillusionment charm and your stealth, and you'll be in full blown
Pause that right
combat
there.
viewable.
Yeah, but...
I don't mind that, because it would be bullshit if you're like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, no, you gotta yell that shit like Voldemort. You can't do it like that.
No, I agree. No,
Plus, then every other game would stealth as well. It's
Yeah,
not
it's like the
I know they
moment-
have different.
The moment you
animations, but-
attack, though, in any stealth game, it's like, all right, I am now alerting everyone around me to what's happening. You have your stealth moves, but then you have your takedown moves. So I think that's the same as anything.
To everybody in the vicinity. Now, your stealth capabilities can be upgraded in the talents menu, meaning you wouldn't get spotted as quickly or as easily. And it's also good to note here that once you do stealth take down an enemy, their body
he's
will
dead.
disappear after around 30 seconds.
Oh,
So
he's
they're not
done.
going to be discovered by a
Imagine.
spawning enemy.
Like that part would be so...
You're falling down a mountain and you can't even scream or nothing. Just on your inside, you're like, "God damn it." Just shattering all of your bones. All your shit's gone.
Or they're not going to break out of the body binding curse to sound the alarm. Again, it's not a stealth
So
game,
bad.
but I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed or
You
would
just
have liked
Spartan
to
kick
have
him
had
off the side
other
of that.
stealth spells during this game, because stealth is fun, and I reckon it
That one? Give me that one. Whatever you did to this
like
dude.
to have had other stealth spells.
I'm
during
fine
this
with
game,
that,
because Stealth
Yeah,
is
ragdoll.
fun, and I
Yeah.
reckon it could have been massively elaborated on, but alas, we'll just have to wait for the next game for that, and I'm just glad it's in the game anyway, and I do think you'll have fun with it. Now, another thing that you may or may not find fun in this
Aloha
game, and
Mara.
that is the unlocking mechanic, which is almost like a mini game within the game itself. And if you've played open world RPG games before, this will be very familiar to you, because when you come across a locking game, you'll be able to use the Aloha Mora spell to then jump into this unlocking menu. And initially, it took me a minute or two to actually work out how to play this mechanic, and that's because both of your controller analog sticks are independent from one another and move independently, and they control a red or green magical spark, as you
Actually, it was
can see on the
kinda
screen
difficult.
here.
Yeah.
And the name of the game is to navigate these sparks into these dial sections and then rotate them so they all then line up and the lock is then released. And Andrew gave me a great tip here and said that the best way to tackle these is to get one spark into position with one of your sticks and then just hold that analog stick stationary whilst you then get the other spark into position, and then it doesn't become as difficult, so you're not kind of moving both of them around.
I still don't understand it.
No,
Speaking
I
of
don't even know
difficult,
what
I
the
was
fuck's
actually
supposed to be lining up
Yeah.
up there.
that these puzzles
I'm so
don't
confused.
scale
Okay.
in that difficulty throughout the game, meaning you won't have to spend 45 minutes on an elaborate 25 piston lock to get through. And that said, there is a talent tree where you will have to spend points to actually obtain
I figured that.
Mora charm and subsequently be able to unlock different locks with their corresponding level, as you can see here, because this door says it's level 1. So you will need 1 talent point in that tree to then unlock that door. And I do believe there's actually 3 levels, if memory serves from my convos with the devs, but I wasn't allowed to raid the talents menu, so that's a tentative recollection from me there. But one thing you will be raiding, and that's spamming the Revelio button on your D-pad, because one thing I did notice whilst running around Hogwarts in particular is numerous secrets and objects that are hiding in plain sight that do give you a field guide entry
Oh,
to
that's
the
really
lore
cool.
page by casting the correct spell on them. So for example, you have this dragon brazier here, and if you use your incendio spell on it, it'll turn into a dragon and then spit out a lore page
I like how student X is like, all right.
for you to collect. And the same thing goes for using Revelio,
Haven't
the
none of the other
revealing
students
charm
tried
at
this?
certain points throughout
Yeah.
the castle. A new example being the map of the county of Argyll here in Scotland. And you've also got the Levioso spell to levitate an orb that this statue is holding just outside the clock tower. So what I would say is that there is a lot of environmental activations like this scattered throughout the world, which will require a little bit of thinking from you on which
Kinda
spell
cool.
to use to get
Yeah,
to
I
activate.
agree.
And if you can't be bothered to think about which spell would be best, you can always just spam your spell diamond until you find the right one, like I did here. Now, speaking of things scattered around the world, one of the things that I was pleased to see in my short time with the game was small world events that are independent of our character that, in my opinion,
I think this is what makes every game good over the last little while that we can think of really good. You know, I bring up Red Dead Redemption again, but what makes that game great is its random encounters. The random things that happen while you're not even trying to do, you know. So let's, you know,
Well,
I'm
it makes exploration interesting.
yes.
Because you're not just looking at shit; things is happening.
Well, in a
around you.
magical world, you got to think like first year, second years, all the way, you know, all the way up. You know, kids are going to be dealing with so many different things. You know, like Ron casting a toad spell that backfires. You know, like random kids having this random stuff happen to them. I could see that. You know,
helps games feel
Just
a
like
little bit
this.
more alive. A good example of this is when you're making your way through one of the corridors and you come across Peeves, who starts to torment a poor
we finally get to see Peeves. That's amazing.
Hufflepuff student singing a song about how the old caretaker Rancorous Carp tried to imprison him and oust him from the castle. Now, the same thing can be said for overhearing students talk about certain things in the castle or about various people, which gives you a bit of a hint of something that you may want to investigate. An example here being when a student says this in game.
There's something in there. I just know it.
And then when you walk up to this fountain and use the Revelio spell, you then go on to find a guide. And I think this is a pretty standard mechanic in RPG games, but expect a lot of hints like this as you walk through heavily
cool.
populated areas during the day. And this brings me nicely onto a little bit of customization. Unfortunately, Avalanche and Warner Brothers aren't permitting a full showcase of the gear menus just yet, but I did want to clarify the transmogrification mechanic, which, if you weren't aware, allows you to change the look of your character while you wear other items which perhaps prioritize better stats. So for example, let's say you've got a mismatch of different pieces of gear on, which gives you an individual stat that buffs your character in some way that you prefer. But the problem is they all look terrible together visually. So what you can do is choose another piece of gear that you visually like the look of, which would then mask the current gear that you have equipped, meaning that you get the stat bonuses, but you also get that
amazing
look and swag.
Because that is like the main problem in any game is loving a certain thing.
Yes. I think that should be in every fucking game.
I agree.
Every one of it always pissed me off so much that you cannot change the look of something because you got some bullshit. like God of War, like when you're playing, like I was, playing Ragnarok. I got cool ass gear, but I'm wearing this fucking yellow
Yeah.
onesie. You know what I mean? I hate that shit.
No, I agree.
Usually want. Now, the great thing about this is that all you need to do is go into your gear menu, click on your item, and then click change appearance when it pops up. There's no need to travel to a vendor in game or head back to your room of requirement to make this change. It's all done in your menu there and then, which is really great, to be honest with you, because as Andrew explained to me, the team didn't want to have to charge you currency or force you to go somewhere else to change it, as that would just be
I mean, that was a
annoying.
big
And I
selling point of the
wholeheartedly
game, is
agree.
no
It's a big tick from me
microtransactions.
there. Now, what about looting? Well, during one of the missions Avalanche let
Or
you play,
not even microtransactions. But what he's saying too is like you don't have to pay for it in game, so you don't have to use your gold just to change the appearance of something, which is fucking phenomenal. I wonder what you have to buy. I guess upgrades
Yeah.
for the broom and your wand and
Yeah,
shit.
I wouldn't
but-
really know how much use gold is at Hogwarts, especially as a kid. So I'm assuming you can earn gold, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
What's the
you get-
currency system,
Well, I mean, you'd go to Hogsmeade and places like that,
True.
so you get to buy things there.
That's
I'm
true.
sure that you can buy clothing. I'm sure you can buy upgrades, buy a new broom. They're gonna have that stuff. I don't know what else you would need. What are they called? Gideons?
Galleons,
Galleons. I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
yeah, gold galleon, all that.
Yeah, galleons. But I don't know what else.
We'll
I
see.
mean, I don't. Yeah, I guess that. But yeah, it's still cool that you don't have to waste it on
That's
just
true.
changing the appearance, especially if you're constantly wanting to do it. Because I'm like a person that like after I play a game for like an hour or two, I'm like, I gotta change the way I look. Like,
Same.
I gotta change it up.
you have to do a bit of investigation work at a local camp, as you can see here, to try and track down the location of poachers. And after casting the Revelio spell, you'll see two items of interest here. One is gold, which means it's loot based and will contain in-game currency such as galleons, resources, or
There you go.
Well. 88 galleons, All right, there we go.
gear items. And the second is blue, meaning that it's of significant narrative importance and you'll need to interact with it to continue with the story or side quest. Now, chests are dotted around in the world and hidden in plain sight, that being a chest in the middle of this small lake, for example. So it's worth throwing down a quick left D-pad Revelio spell as you play through
Go back.
missions like
Can you
this.
go back for a second? I wanted to see what that said when he picked it up.
Around in the world and hidden in plain sight, that being a chest in the middle of this small lake. Missions
Oops.
like this.
Oops. What part are you trying to look at?
Just when he picked that up. I just wanted to see
Around
what
in
came
the
out of the
world
chest.
and hidden in plain sight, that being a
It
chest in
skipped
the middle of
ahead,
this small
man.
lake, for example. So it's worth throwing down a
Blue solar protection goggles.
Yeah.
So it's gear.
Yeah.
quick left D-pad Revelio spell as you play through missions like this, but I just want to bring your attention to the loot panel, which says here that it's
Unidentified
unidentified.
neck
So
item.
you're picking up a piece of
What?
gear, and the game is telling you that it has.
What
no
is
idea what it
this?
is. Now, as mentioned by Alan to the game
Knitted
director back in the
thing.
showcase before
Where does it? It's all I know is it's a neck item.
Christmas, these are
fucking
unidentified
necklace.
items that need to be taken back to the identification station in your room of requirement, which reveals its stats. So if you ever come across any kind of loot like this in game, you now know what it's for, and you now know you need to go back to the room of requirement and check it out. Now, if you are watching this
That's-
far,
Whatever.
I really
Dude, I hope everything's listed like that, like unidentified torso cloths,
recommend
unidentified shin guards.
you click this video on your screen right now for another early access video about Hogwarts Legacy with lots more to come. So do make sure you're also subscribed so you can find your way back here easily. And big thanks to the Hogwarts Legacy team.
Well, I
do
think
you
that's
think, dude?
interesting. I think that's
This is a good video.
super interesting.
Like I said, even the negatives, which I don't think he was really saying as a negative, like, yeah, if you can't go underwater. Like, wow, okay.
Yeah, there's
There's a
a
lot of other shit. They still didn't answer which I know they're not showing it like right now because they're trying to make it a surprise. They're only letting you go around Hogwarts. But I'm still really hoping that these places that you go to that you can see, they're not. I know Hogwarts is bustling and there's a lot of shit going on, but I'm just really curious about what happens when you go into the Forbidden Forest, or when you go into Hogsmeade, or when you go up into the mountains, just regular forestry.
it's still my main concern of the game. Like, everything else looks cool, graphics. I'm not too concerned. I'm not going to nitpick every little thing about the game, but if you're going to be Hogwarts Legacy, I want to be able to explore Hogwarts. I see it as an open world Hogwarts game. And I want to be able to explore the forbidden level 4 area and all these different things. And if I wanted to go into the obviously I think this is before the whole moaning. It is before the whole moaning Myrtle thing, but like I want to go into that bathroom, and it's okay if I can't get into the Chamber of Secrets, but I should be able to see those like Easter eggs of like the sink and stuff. You know, I think that would at least be cool.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure they're going to put a lot of that in there. I know they're talking about a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of hidden shit. Hogwarts, I'm not really worried about. Like I said, I think Hogwarts is going to be flushed out. Like I said, I just haven't seen a lot of gameplay from that like that first game reveal. I know we went to Hogsmeade and kind of flew around for a second, but I didn't get to see anything that answers those questions. But because I know, like I said, they're going. They said anywhere you see, you can go to, but
Yeah.
they haven't went there, so I don't know how lived in it's gonna feel,
Sure.
or is it just a blank canvas of trees? I have no clue.